Hey everybody, it's exciting to be with you here today. I'm Chris Brown. I'm here with Joel Jensen. Today we want to talk a little bit about how do you choose the right accountant? What do you do to make sure that you're getting the type of help that you need? Joel is remarkable at what he does, and I've never seen anybody better at helping small business owners than Joel, so I'm excited to have him with us here today. Joel, talk to us a little bit just to begin with. We're talking to small business owners out there. When they're looking for an accountant, when they're looking for a CPA firm that's going to help them take advantage of the deductions and the planning that's available to them, what would you tell them to look for?
Well, there are a couple things to start with. First, you should find someone who is familiar with your industry, right? So let's think of the legal profession, for example. I don't go see a mergers and acquisitions lawyer if I need my trust done, for example, right? I'm looking for someone who has a background in what it is that I do. I'm also looking for someone that's open all year round. If you're a CPA and you're open from January to April, that really doesn't help you from a planning standpoint. And I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so last year I had two clients. First client's name is Michael. Okay, Michael lives in LA. He was a scientist, and he sends me his information every year. I said, okay, Michael, we got to go through this stuff because the tax code has changed, right? And based on that change, you may be surprised at what happens with your actual tax return. So when he sends it to me, we go through it. I go and do the actual tax return. Then I send it to him and I say, okay, now let's get on the phone. So we get on the phone, we get to page 2, we start working our way down, get to the bottom, which everyone is always so curious about. What's happening? Do I owe or am I getting a refund? He was getting a $10,000 refund. Okay, $10,000. Do you know what his reaction was to me when I said $10,000?
What was it?
His reaction was, that's it? That's all I'm getting, $10,000? But that's what he wanted to know, right? But I said, okay, Michael, let's take a step back. Let's look and compare apples to apples and see what happened with the tax changes, withholdings, and how much you paid, and see and compare actually, did you fare better or worse? And he actually fared off better. And that was his reaction. Okay, conversely, I had another client who lives in Texas, real estate person, self-employed, and she sold 3 properties last year, right? 3 properties. So we had been working throughout the year on what was happening. So she had sent me information on the closing statements, and I was going through and trying to do some pro formas and seeing what she may owe at the end of the year. And we had these discussions. So when she sent me her information, okay, we went through it. I did her tax return. I sent her out the information, and we got to the same position, the bottom of page 2, to look to see what she may owe or is getting back. And she owed $60,000. Okay, don't be too sad. That just means she made a lot of money, right? But she owed $60,000. Do you know what her reaction to me was?
Ecstatic.
That's it? That's all I owe, right? Same reaction to very different people. But what that tells us is a lot of this stuff is based on expectations. When it comes to the actual simple tax return, I mean, tax return is just complying, right? I just got to comply with the law. I got to send in my forms. But a lot of the work that goes into the tax return actually has to happen all year round. I need to do my tax planning. I need to know what's going on. So when it comes time to sit down and do the tax forms, my expectations are exactly where they need to be. Now, if I'm choosing a CPA, I need someone that's going to be available to me. I need someone that's going to be familiar with my business, maybe even in the business that I'm doing. For example, I have small businesses. I'm a CPA. I'm familiar with this. I know the rules because I'm looking after myself, right? Which in turn makes me look after my clients. So really, someone familiar with small business, someone who has great exposure to a birth of small businesses, and someone who's available to you all year round to actually do the planning you need to do. So when it comes time to do the forms, it's just a matter of compliance.
So there's a couple quick thoughts that I have as I hear you talk. I mean, number one, I know you don't golf a lot in July.
No,
do you?
I do not golf in July.
Even though it's after tax time, you're spending a ton of time with your clients, making sure that we're ahead of the game, that things are taken care of.
Right.
Is that right?
Right. The time I take off typically is between December 20th and January 1st. The rest of the year I'm working.
Yeah. Taxes is really a year-round thing, and a lot of people don't realize that, especially for small business owners.
It is absolutely a year-round thing. Just like with the example that I gave you. With Jen, I had worked with her all year on what was happening with her properties and how much she would owe. Because what we're trying to do is avoid any type of penalties and interest that she may owe if she made late payments, right? So we had to make sure her estimated payments were correct based on the activity that was going on. So all the work goes in, April or January through December, and then you just do your compliance the next year as far as returns go.
One other quick thought I have, just maybe a 30-second why. As business owners, going to that person who maybe did your personal taxes for years isn't always the right decision. There's a big difference between being a business owner and just filing off of your W-2. Talk to that for just 30 seconds.
Right. So if you think about like an average CPA, maybe he has or she has a business office. Maybe they see 200, 250 clients a year. Most of them pretty standard. They work really hard January through April. Like you said, they go golfing during the summers when they can have their time off, but they don't really see as much, right? Because they may only see some of the basic items that may come into their particular office. What you're looking for is someone who has exposure, someone who specializes in your specific area, much like the lawyer example. Yeah. Someone who has been through and understands what are some of the small business rules, for example, right? What are the business deductions that I can take? What are the new rules that were passed just a year ago, right? And how does that affect my business? How does that affect how I deal with vendors, how I deal with state agencies, how I deal with customers, retailers? I mean, all those people kind of got shifted when this stuff passed a year ago. And if you're familiar with how those may affect your small business, that's the person you want to talk to.
So maybe just a couple things to sum it up. Number one, making sure that you have a CPA firm who has exposure to the type of business that you're in.
Right.
Not getting somebody who doesn't have that breadth of experience. Number two, one of the critical things that I see as I talk to you and your clients is making sure that you have somebody who is working with you year round to make sure that you're able to take advantage of everything that's available to you.
Year round. Because if you come see me, in February and say, hey, Joel, what can I do for last year's taxes? I'm going to say, why weren't you talking to me 6 months ago?
Absolutely. We know it's important for you to keep your business running smoothly. Here at Tax Hive, we stand ready to help with all of your tax and business needs so that you can focus in on what it is that you do best, and that's running your business. We have an entire team of experts who stand ready to help you out. Schedule a strategy session with one of our specialists today.